Why does it always seem like there's a project to do? Today we've got to fix this toilet tank cover. I tried searching eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Lowe's, Amazon, you name it, for a replacement cover, but it was going to cost more than $100 to get a replacement. Almost the cost of a new toilet, that I figured it was worth trying something new. So we're going to try Bondo to seal it back together and then paint it. This method would cost only 20 bucks and a few hours on a Saturday, so I figured let's try the cheaper option first. My main concern was structural support because it was broken in half, so I thought it might be good insurance to add some wooden splints to keep the tank cover from flexing and breaking at the Bondo joint. I figured let's use the inherent channels around the perimeter of the tank to place supports, that way the tank won't completely self-destruct when you lift it. So now I just need to whittle down some scrap pieces of wood I have lying around the shop, fit it into the two channels, and puzzle piece this tank top back together. Bondo can be nasty, so make sure to wear gloves and work in a well-ventilated area. The two brakes were fairly clean, but it's a good idea to make sure that there's nothing dangling or loose before making the glue connection. I mixed a small amount of Bondo with the activator on a cardboard surface and mixed until it was fully incorporated. I did a dry fit of the supports and the halves together a few times to make sure that once I started there wouldn't be issues, but obviously it's different when you actually do it in real time. I then covered the supports with Bondo to help them stay in the channels of the tank perimeter. Now I opened the seam slightly and filled the gap with Bondo. Bondo does set up somewhat quickly, so that's why it's important to have everything ready to go. My wife was definitely helpful during this process. To make the gap as seamless as possible, I clamped the two pieces together and then added a layer of Bondo on top to cover the crack. I let it sit overnight to dry. Now it's nice and solid, so we're ready to sand, and then once smooth, we'll paint it. I am wearing a respirator for this, and I'm doing it outside since this is pretty nasty stuff. Painting is all about the prep work. I started off with a low grit sandpaper, about 100 grit, to take off a good amount of excess Bondo. Hindsight said I could have done a little bit less and made it a bit smoother to make my life easier, but live and learn. I wrapped the sandpaper around a sponge to help evenly sand, but soon got tired and switched over to a power sander. What a difference in the time and energy it took after that. I'll be honest, this was the toughest part of the job for me because I have little patience, and with painting, your prep work pays dividends. Kudos to all the painters and model makers out there. I wish I had your patience. Well, here we are, probably 20 minutes later after sanding. I've done a low grit and high grit. Really what you're just looking for is for a soft transition. Get rid of those high parts because that will show through the paint. And now we'll clean it up and then we'll paint it. So now in preparation for paint, we're going to take some IPA and just clean all this remaining dust off, and then we'll paint it. My wife helped me match the paint. That way we didn't have to bring the tank lid to the store. We found that this one resembled the closest. Just follow the instructions on the paint can and what you're using. I'm using Rust-Oleum. I'll link in the description box below. Five coats later and it looks all right. I'll give myself a C- here, but honestly the fact that it's intact, we'll see about the strength here momentarily once it's dry. And I think it'll do the job. I could have definitely spent more time sanding, but as you've seen in many past videos, I have the patience of a 3-year-old. So this is the result of that. Well, it seems to be holding up. Not a perfect match, but man, does that look a lot better. And it's functional. And worst comes to worst, we put a plant on top of it or something to cover it, and we won't have to deal with it until we sell the house.